I think really the kind of get-in has to be like where we've gone wrong, as opposed to what's different about Unbroken. It's really about what's limited about most people's approach to pain and movement. And for reasons that are like multifactorial and centuries old and wrapped up in the history of medicine and therapy, we are just entrenched in the meat machine, and we almost completely ignore the existence of this biological supercomputer that runs the whole damn show. So if you think about it for just a moment, right? The things that people really care about, like I'm in pain, I don't want to be in pain. My muscles feel tight and I have episodes where I move well and then where I don't move well. Or I have injuries that seem to have occurred and then just not healed. Well, like those things really aren't about the architecture of the body. They're really functions of the nervous system. So the first limit to how strong you are is your nerve saying that's enough. And the exact same applies to most kind of ranges of motion and flexibility, as there's a level of neurological control that's there before you hit the passive limits of the meat machine. So you never were a stack of bricks or a series of muscles that must be perfectly aligned. There is no perfect posture. Like, we need to break down this biomechanical view of the body that everybody who's stuck in pain is inevitably doing something wrong, right? And that's the modern narrative, is that if you're in pain, like you're standing wrong, you're sleeping in the wrong position, you're sitting in the wrong way, you might actually be relaxing when you sit down, God forbid, and you're breathing, right? There's no way to breathe wrong. It's in then out, then in again, right? Like, and so there are better explainers now based on like what we have learned in the last couple of decades of science about pain and movement that just aren't being absorbed into the kind of common vernacular. Social media is full of the same exercises now that it was in at the turn of the century. We haven't moved on, yet our understanding has moved on. So pain is basically, as best we understand it, a primal sense that's unpleasant and is a proxy for a real or perceived threat to your system. And that's not damage, right? Sometimes that's just a bit of inflammation. Sometimes that's an overused neck muscle because your eyeballs don't do something. But for many people who wind up feeling broke, the reason they can't fix it is because they don't really need to be fixed. There is a river that runs within all of us of just biological healing, which our body wants to get better. It's part of what makes it survive. And so, yeah, that fix me mentality, it's not really that. It's get your systems healthy enough and accurate enough that healing can occur. So Unbroken really is a mission to correct that bias. We're obsessed with the meat machine. We're completely ignorant of the biological supercomputer that runs the whole damn show. And Unbroken is there to show you how you can help yourself. How that by asking better questions and by practicing more relevant movements, you can actually unwind an awful lot of the things that have led you to the point where you feel broken. And it's great because neurological systems, it's a recalibration event. It is like putting a piece of extra code into a computer program, not like building a wall. It doesn't take that much time, and it's often not nearly as much effort as people would put into, say, like getting much stronger, for example. So it does represent, hopefully, a modernization of the way that the people who complete the course start thinking about pain and movement, because the way we think about these things really limits the approaches that we take. And our approaches are just kind of dumb and like defy biological reason. What I'm doing now of talking and explaining and gesturing are all infinitely more complex than any of the tasks that your glute muscles have to do. But the world's become besotted by this idea that you need to have a deep emotional connection and be able to feel your bum muscles the entire time. You think, well, can you feel your throat muscles when you talk? Can you feel your face muscles when you smile and give those kind of really nuanced signals to other human beings? So I think we've sort of forget how complex we are, right? A good example is like iPhones and millennials. I'm old. I remember the advent of the smartphone. I was there before it was there. I lived in the pre-tech world and I was a young adult when it all came along. But I am amazed by it because I saw it develop and I remember what it was like before. And I think to all of us, our bodies and our brains are kind of like iPhones. We're just now so used to them. We don't really think about how vastly complex they are and about all the churning processing that's going on underneath the hood. And that's where movement lives, is underneath the hood, deep locked away from our awareness, just like the muscles of talking are and like your glute muscle should be when you perform a deadlift. Trying to control movement through your prefrontal cortex and conscious thought is an absolute surefire way to make yourself feel less physically able, because that process is too slow for what happens in movement. You take anything like an attacker moving towards a defender in football or rugby, and the decision-making times and the reactive movements of those bodies are just far too quick for anyone to, in that scenario, to think about whether they've done their core up or aligned their leg. And these are things that are constantly repeated to people in pain. So we're looking in the wrong places and we're encouraging the wrong thought processes. Because if the thought process is you're doing it wrong, you need to think about it more, then really all we're doing is making people feel more threatened, making them slower and more ponderous over movement. And all of that adds up to less efficiency. And the one thing that I think physio and other professions dealing with pain and movement have really forgotten is that efficiency rules all biological systems. It's a non-negotiable. Like if you start tensing stuff up and thinking lots about alignment and labeling certain movements as bad, you can only be decreasing the efficiency of the movement that you make, and by any measure, that's good biological systems are ones that get the task done as efficiently as possible. It is what makes you and I unique as animals, is our efficiency in locomotion. Nothing else without wings can cover ground as the same as a human can. So locomotion has shaped us, and our balance system is really advanced, and even compared to other primates, because it's necessary that we're extremely accurate between those visual, inner ear vestibular balance systems and the rest of movement. It is called Unbroken, so it's looking for people who currently feel broken and don't believe that's their future. They're not going to settle for what conventional physiotherapy and medicine and society is telling them, that you just got a dodgy knee now and that's your back is going to have these episodes of spasm every 6 to 8 weeks and there's nothing you can do about it. And they're just asking people to stay broken. And it's forgetting about that biological river of feeling that just runs through all of us, that our systems want to get better, and we've just got to find those right inputs that help to move it in that direction. So Unbroken is an online course that will educate you with better, more scientifically accurate view of what is happening when we move, what is happening when we feel pain. And it will equip you with a really novel set of moves and exercises that you can use and integrate into your life in lots of different ways to try and move you back out of that broken feeling towards unbroken. Unbroken is undefined. It will mean different things to different people. A lot of people, when I assess them as a physiotherapist, say, I want to not be in pain. Well, no, that's like saying I don't want to taste, right? It's a sensation that we all need. It has a necessary biological function. It should be rare and fleeting, and things should get better quickly after they've got bad. And that's what happens generally if we look at injury and pain in really healthy systems. So often if we get stuck from an injury or we get a pain we can't get out of, it's essentially because we're not moving efficiently enough through all the other systems. And if we happen to get pain or an injury to a system that we're really dependent on, then it's hard for us to offload it. And that's what we all do. This is such an important point. We are all wimps. Nobody likes pain. That's the idea of it. It's meant to be unpleasant. You're meant to try and avoid it. So we shouldn't feel bad about that. A weird misunderstanding within medicine is people go, oh, these people with lots of pain, they seem to be anxious and depressed. You will know they're exactly the brain states that should go with a body that is painful and slow and uneasy. That it all matches up. That's a system working well. It's that tie-in between the two. So like integration is a word that we can use in multiple ways. Our brains and our bodies are completely integrated. And this is something that most of medicine just forgets. And the kind of classic example is people with chronic pain. And I use that term in inverted air quotes because it doesn't mean anything other than you've had a pain for more than 12 weeks. So right, like most things that are worth talking about have been chronic pain that you then resolved. It's not a diagnosis, it's a time length of symptoms. But if you're somebody who's stuck in pain, who feels broken, it is often then said, well, you're depressed, you're anxious, maybe that's why you're in pain. And you go, well, that's to completely put the brain in charge and the body as this kind of secondary thing. And it's just not how it works. They're interdependent states. It is biologically correct that if your movement systems are compromised and you're not able to run fast or jump far or use your body to its full capacity, it is right that you then feel anxious and worried and depressed and pessimistic about your future. Because that's just what should come with pain. But if we can get pain levels down, then what we'll often see is that people feel much more positive, much more relaxed and calm. And then we've got that sort of other layer of it, that often once we are in pain, we are told ridiculous things. Like, don't relax when you sit in a chair. Or your arches must never go down. Don't put your knees over your toes. You've got anterior tilt, you must spend all your day trying not to have anterior tilt, right? These just feed it, right? Because you're asking people to avoid movements that are completely natural, completely safe and easy. So to avoid them is an effort, and that's a cost to your system. It burns calories, it creates muscle tension, and it makes relaxing much harder. So up goes the anxiety, and then more and more people start to believe that their pain exists in their head, which is unhelpful, but technically true. So every pain that you have ever felt has traveled through at least 3 neurons. So somewhere in your body, a receptor is fired. That might be in your skin because you've cut it. It might be within a muscle because you've stretched it really hard, or within your soft tissue where you've bashed it or whatever. But a receptor has picked up a signal that it interprets as a threat, and that receptor is connected to a first order neuron that goes from wherever the input is to your spinal cord. And then at the level of the spinal cord, there is a synapse, a junction between that first order neuron and a second order neuron in your spinal cord. And then that information flows up into the brainstem, where it hits another synapse into third order neuron up into the brain. So we've got this 1-step, 2-step, 3-step process. And it is really important that we all get our head around the fact that all pain transmits into consciousness through that system. So all pain is neural. All pain is made into pain by the brain. This thing coming up can't be considered pain because it hasn't hit your consciousness yet. So it is a signal. Technically, it's nociception is the name for it. But that can't be thought of as pain. At that stage, it's just threat. At each of those junctions I mentioned, so at the base of the, where the peripheral nerve hits the spinal cord, where the spinal cord hits the brainstem, and where the information is then transmitted up into the higher parts of the brain. At each one of those junctions, there's potential for the brain to basically either amplify or turn the volume right down on that signal. So pain is really complicated and nuanced. It's certainly not a linear report of the amount of damage currently occurring in your body. Neither is it something that you can just get through worrying about it. It always starts with a signal in the tissue, not always. In 99.9% of cases, there's an issue in the tissue that's firing the nociceptive signal that's then resulting in the cognitive experience of pain. And it really is about this entanglement thing, right? Your brain and your nervous system, so your brain, your spinal cord, and all the nerves that go through your tissue, that is technically a oneness. We could take my skull off, pull on the brain, and if we pulled hard enough and the nerves were somehow strong enough, that could be extracted as one single nervous system. So a brain, a spinal cord, and all the peripheral nerves that go to every bit of my body. And what would be left behind is this kind of meat machine and alimentary canal of organs to digest food. That's grim, but so now my brain's over here and my body's over there, right? My brain over here, my nervous system, well, that's all the electricity, it's all the thoughts and feelings, but it's got none of its input. So it's not really capable of functioning in any way. And even if it could generate movement, there's no effector for it to move. The body is the engine that the nervous system drives. So that nervous system can't feel pain, can't create movement. And the body left behind, well, that's just a body, that's just a lump of meat. That can't move, it can't feel, and it certainly can't generate pain. So they are entangled. Both movement, pain, and consciousness just all live in the fuzzy interspace between having a brain and having a body. And yet we always want to label things to belong to one of these systems or the other. Although it's technically possible on an anatomical level to separate a brain, a nervous system from the meat machine of the body, neither works like that. They are completely incapable of function, and there is no property of being human that belongs really exclusively to your brain or your body. So we need to think that these things are closer together than they seem and they feel like. And the good news is that we are slowly, in certain sections of medicine, moving in the right direction. And neurosensory integration, give it kind of the full title, is a word that crops up in everything from care neurology, so people have had strokes and stuff like that, to chronic pain, to cognitive behavioral therapy and other kind of talking-based therapies for the mind and for the mood. And then also in things like pediatric populations in developmental delay. And it's good because it's basically breaking down this fallacy that is as old as medicine and as old as thoughts about brains and bodies, is that the two things are distinct, that they can be separated. And that separation is entirely anatomical. It's never ever functional. So a lot of people who feel broken feel like they've tried everything. And you might well have tried a lot. But really what we've often tried is a lot of the same things over and over again. So if it's been in that therapy field, it's probably trying chiro, trying massage, trying physiotherapy, trying electrotherapy stuff. But they're all just trying to mop up the sort of site of pain, and we're not good enough at digging down into some of the deeper kind of contributors to pain. And on a societal level, we're just obsessed with the meat machine. We assume that's where the problem is and therefore where the answers lie, right? If you take a kind of classic example, right? So how many people are tight and sore here? And our intelligence as a society needs to be questioned on the very principle of something is tight, so you stretch it. And that's as old as the hills. It started in PE classes at school and it continues through sports, and it's what's said in therapy. And I'm by no means anti-stretching. But if you just stop and think about it for one tiny minute, if something is tight and you stretch it, that makes it tighter. And yet it produces a feeling of relief, which should be the kind of clear and present clue that it's not just about the mechanics. Because if something was tight and you stretched it and the problem was just that it was tight, well, either you believe that your muscles are so plastic that you can simply deform them by moving your head sideways, which would make picking up heavy things by the same muscle difficult to explain. That isn't what happens. When you stretch a muscle and you feel some relief from it, the muscle didn't get any longer. But maybe you stimulated the receptors in that muscle really hard, and then as that pressure relieves, the muscle's more able to kind of fully relax. Or maybe simply the act of stretching your muscle forces your brain to feel the bit that's hurting, and you're just updating your brain map of your body, and things like that are actually working on a neurological level all along. So, to quote one of my great mentors and friends, Dr. Cobb, everyone's treating neurology mostly by mistake. And that is the way I look at it, that if you go to the gym and do a lot of exercise and you feel better for it, that's great. But a lot of people can get some benefits long before they've done enough to actually be any stronger or actually be any longer in any kind of tissue or more mobile in a joint. So what they've really done is kind of update their body maps inside their brain, and that's just another version of kind of decreasing the error within our neurosensory integration network. But there are integrations that are more important than whether you know exactly how much you've bent your elbow. Because if our visual system is off or weak or inaccurate, and the same goes for our inner ear system, then because the top doesn't feel safe, then nothing else kind of further down the system can feel nice. And so the lovely thing about Unbroken is we're really focusing on these movement systems within the head that fundamentally are the interface between the external world of seeing it and, to an extent, hearing it, and the internal world of feeling your own body in motion. And we mislabel things. So we think about vestibular system as being about dizziness, and the vestibular rehabilitation is something that's given to people who have dizziness problems, and it can be really helpful there. But the reality is your inner ear it's your organ of self-motion. It's your brain's way of knowing whether your brain is in motion. That has implications far beyond people that feel dizzy. It works every time you move. It's on 24/7. It's a constant, consistent input as long as you're alive. And if one side is lying to your brain about what's actually happening, then your visual system has to work harder, and your muscle systems on that side of the body have to work harder to reduce the error that's occurring. And we can never get to zero error. No, that's just not how biology works. And that's where this stuff gets kind of ethereal, right? Like, you and I can't actually sense reality. You can see, but only a limited amount of the light spectrum. You can hear, but only a limited vibration profile actually turns into sound within the human ear. So it is a point that's easily missed. Our version of reality is entirely shaped by our neural receptor, and it's limited by them as well. And so if you have limitations in those systems, it is hard to tell, in the same way that it's hard for us to guess that there are visual things to see that we can't see. But there are. Many pollinating flowers have patterns in UV light that can only be seen by the pollinator, and that makes it look dull to everything that's not of interest to that symbiotic relationship. So nature's full of examples of things where nature is doing stuff in a spectrum that we have no access to. And that applies to all humans, but to a lot of broken humans, their spectrum of accessibility has become much smaller. And even if the problems start in the body, they always eventually end up in the brain, just because of the kind of nature of these integrated systems. Limping is a kind of classic example. If you have limped and it's had a unilateral element to it, the very good chance that your brain just started to ignore some or all of the balance-based inputs coming from that side of your body. And because of the amazing kind of robustness of the system, essentially every positive input on this side of the head is a negative input on this side of the head. you can get by and not fall over with one inner ear really not working at all. So it's a system so ancient, we have no kind of direct sensory access to it. And so if it's off, often people just feel slow and poorly coordinated or have bad balance. These are kind of treatable things. With the right inputs, the neurological system throughout our lifetime can recalibrate and adapt, but we have to ask the right questions. And Unbroken is my attempt to get those right questions out there in front of the public. Now, it's a small pebble in a big ocean, but I think it is part of a change that's coming, that in 20, 30 years' time, we will see kind of neural function and integration and vision as a kind of core part of treating pain and movement. And at the moment, it still sadly, particularly within the UK, sits on the very fringes of. But it is interesting where it is kind of quickly being like uploaded and integrated into practice. And places where the senses really matter, you see this stuff picked up really quickly. So whether it's elite tennis or special forces or high performance elite movement, neurosensory integration is actually becoming quite common. What it's not doing is trickling down to the weekend warrior and the everyday athlete and the people just stuck in disabling levels of pain. They're not getting access to this new and exciting side of how the cutting edge of medicine is treating pain and movement. And I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. And I think it is hard to kill a myth. But if we can simply build a better model of how pain and movement works, and we can base it around minimizing error in these systems, paying loads of attention when we're doing drills, and then entirely forgetting about all of the mental clutter, we can really start to put people back into the space where they are thoughtless, fearless movers. And that's what we all need to aim for, is thoughtless, fearless move. It's not about pain-free. It's not about perfect posture. It's not about exact symmetry. It's about feeling like your body can do all the things you want it to do and you have fun doing those things. So that's why pain-free shouldn't be everyone's target, because the bigger prize is unlimited and fearless and reactive movement. And we need a little bit of pain to keep those things in check and tell us when there is threat. So the less error you have, the safer your brain and your body feel to move, and the easier they find those movements to make. And for the vast majority of people with complex pain, even if it started in the body, it's knocked up into the brain by the time they come to be 2, 3, 10 years down the line of trying to solve the problem. But we're still looking for those injury-based explainers or those you're doing something wrong-based explainers. And actually, any pain that lasts will eventually cause compromises, at least within our peripheral nervous system, if not within our higher order systems like eyeball movement and inner ear function. And they really are massive players, and it's reflected in the kind of bandwidth of your brain. It's estimated that 50 to 80% of everything your brain is doing moment by moment when your eyes are open is processing vision. Something around 15% of the processing is vestibular, but that's really interesting because it's 24/7. Whether you're asleep, awake, static, or in motion, your vestibular system is talking to the rest of your brain, and it is talking to all different areas of your brain. It really is amazing how much that tiny little organ of balance informs other parts of the brain more so than any other sense does. So that's really important. And then we have introspection, that internal sense of what's happening, whether you're hungry or whether you're thirsty or whether you're comfortable, all those things. And that's a small, like maybe another 10%. And then proprioception, everything entering the brain about the body via the spinal cord is worth the same data as like one eyeball for 1 second. So it really isn't the big thing that the brain thinks important in movement, but it is the thing that we think currently is important. And therefore the thing that people in pain do is try and change the way it feels to move by moving, but often without addressing what it is that actually makes that movement difficult, slow, or painful. So if we can unshackle you from your top-down, higher-order sensory deficits, then the hope is you just take the handbrake off, and now you get stronger when you strengthen, you get more mobile when you do mobility work, you feel safe to go back to the fun, playful activities that you used to do that kept you feeling like yourself. But that has to be progressive. Like, you don't wait to feel completely unbroken before you start trying to get back out there. Most people have had some pessimistic physio or doctor tell them they can't do stuff. It's up to you what you do, and it's up to your brains to find what activities are safe. So be very careful about permanency of advice. There is nothing permanent about a human being. So being told you can never run again or never do your sport again is something we have to be very careful about, because our body is always changing. And if we start feeding it different inputs, in a few months' time, it might be moving and feeling very differently. And that advice is now entirely out of date, but people tend to hang on to these negative things inside their head. So yeah, you're the captain of your own ship. You're the only one who can feel your neurological universe. And I think that thought that it's all locked in and it's just for you, and your version of your body and your nervous system is completely unique. There's never been anyone like you, and we're all individual, sort of locked in, it sounds kind of depressing, internal universes. No one else can feel your pain, no one that's like to move like you. But that means you're in a unique position of having access to the information about what feels hard, what feels difficult, what is accurate, what is inaccurate. That the best person to fix you is you, not your physio, not your trainer, not your doctor. It's you. It's down to you. And that move is with people who that talks to them, that you're going to get this sorted yourself. It's not going to be somebody else who fixes you. And I think as soon as we give up on fixing ourselves and we start to look to other people to fix us, that to an extent, in a lot of situations, all hope is lost, particularly around those pains where the scans are quite normal. There is no broken bone to wait for it to heal. Change is going to take change. If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep doing what you're going to get. So if you've had enough of endless lunges and sit-ups to try and fix your back pain, or going to the chiro twice a week for 6 months and then ending up basically back where you started at the end of it all, then maybe Unbroken is your next best bet. And we've tried to keep it as best value as money as we can. It is a lifetime access. You're paying us once and then this is yours for forever. We really hope you won't need it that much, because it's an education process as much as it is a demonstration of movement. And autonomy is so important. We've lost that confidence. Just go out and try new stuff. We want instruction over everything. No one taught you to walk when you were a baby. No one taught you to see when you were even smaller than that. And I believe in you, and I believe in your biological intelligence, that if we can just unshackle it from all the negative brainworms that have been put there by the internet and previous therapists, that we can really get somewhere. No matter how broken you feel, we're confident that for 90+% of people who feel broken, Unbroken as a program can help them move them towards their goal, what they want. I'm stopping because I get all emotional about it.